time now for today's Talkback segment. Each day we post a question on CourtTV's social media pages. We gather your comments and questions and respond right here on the show. Today we received a verdict for the nasty neighbor stabbing trial, so we asked you, what are your thoughts on the defendant, Zachary Latham, being found not guilty on all charges? Still with me, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor David Bruno and litigation trial attorney Rich Schoenstein. All right, guys, our first comment comes from Carol. Carol says, this is so sad and in so many ways. I believe he does bear some responsibility for what happened. It seems he was taunting them in hopes of drama happening. Very sad. There was no one innocent in this situation. And I think, David, that's kind of where the judge was at the end. He kind of admonished the kid, you know, basically saying there are no winners here. Don't walk out of this courtroom thinking you won this thing. Earlier in the trial, he had to admonish the kid about not gloating or going online and talking about the case on social media, et cetera, et cetera. And it is true. But still, I still feel like a kid at the age of 18 doing silly things with social media, this family, this guy in law enforcement should have known better.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's the criticism of his actions. It's what he did on his property and in the garage, and he was charged with murder, right? So that's one issue. But his actions before, the use of the social media platforms, his engagement with these neighbors, the antics that were happening, nobody should be applauding that. We do not need that in society. And just because we now have these social platforms where people have a voice and could reach people with the algorithms and the impressions does not mean that people should be using it for that purpose, taking it for advantage. And there should be a conversation about ending things like that despite this acquittal today.
Yeah, and in their post-trial interview, the defense attorney said they thought all that stuff regarding TikTok, et cetera, was irrelevant. That was the way they looked at it. All right, our next comment comes from Tracy. Tracy says, yes, because they went into his garage. When they had the opportunity to call the police, they took matters into their own hands. And now they don't like the outcome. They blew their chance for justice by going after him themselves. But here's the interesting thing about this case. And the state tried to argue that his going into the house, Rich, was provocation when he got the knife and he came out. But there was a very clear reading by the judge of the charge to the jury that that wasn't provocation. And I think once that was read to the jury, all the rest of it, all the previous incidents that day, earlier in the day, he almost ran over the kid. Then there was the incident with the wife a few minutes before that where he allegedly hit her. And she even told her sons and her husband, hey, he hit me. And that's why they were going after him. They tried to use that to their advantage. But it sounded like there was a bit of a double standard.
Well, maybe. I do think it could be viewed as provocation, but once he goes back into his garage and they follow him in, it seems like the neighbors are being the aggressors and he's defending himself. And just to add on to what David had to say, I would say to Zachary Latham, you got the right result today. Make the most of it. Go out. Don't worry tonight about getting likes on TikTok. Worry about what you're going to do now, going forward, now that you got this verdict.
Yeah, his life has kind of had some troubles. He's gotten some trouble in Florida. He moved to Florida. His marriage has broken up. They're getting a divorce. So hopefully he'll get himself on a straight and narrow path there. Our next comment comes from Steph. Steph says, hopefully the Durham family learned a valuable lesson here. Next time, don't show up to someone's home and think there's no consequence. I'm happy he was found not guilty. For his sake, he needs to reevaluate what he does for social media. And that goes to your point, Rich. At the end of the day, Rich, and I'm going to go back to you, I'm sorry, David, because I want to ask about this. Rich mentioned something about a civil case. Do you think there's a chance that they could win, the family, if they came with a civil case?
I think they would have largely the same problem, which is there's a conflicting view of the evidence. So at the end of the day, I don't. I think he would probably win that too, but you never know until they do it.
Yeah, I doubt. They probably just want this thing to go away. All right, thanks to David Bruno and Rich Schoenstein for being with us tonight. Folks, coming up next, we're going to review